Michael Elliott, and our next guest is Karl Burns. Karl is the Chief Strategy Officer at VirtualQube. Since joining the firm, he has led initiatives focused on revamping the go-to-market strategy and operations, increasing organizational maturity, decreasing cost of service, and scaling operations. Welcome, Karl.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about your background.
So my background's in banking and consulting, and for the past few years I've been in business line expansions, whether it was attacking new markets, developing new products and launching them, or if it was helping businesses do what they already know how to do, but doing it more efficiently and more profitably. For a number of years there, I was in the innovation space, so at a specific design company, we helped launch new products. Specifically, I worked with a number of companies in the health and fitness space. You know, the whole quantified self movement, studying yourself and having the numbers and having it change your behavior, hopefully for the better. That was something that I was passionate about. So spent years working with different companies, some I can mention, some I can't, and working within that space. And it just kind of, you know, lit a fire under me, and I've stayed heavily involved in it since.
So let's talk a little bit about VirtualQube. What is the company? Where do you operate at? So
we're out of Seattle, Washington, which is home of the cloud. We're a cloud services company and a full service MSP as well. We saw two opportunities. One, our DNA is in virtualization. In fact, we were one of the first 100 Citrix resellers in the mid-90s. So we've been doing this in virtualizing workloads since that year, 94 actually. That kind of led us towards the cloud services opportunity and service that we developed 2 years ago. What we experienced was we had a client that wanted their own virtual infrastructure. Well, we needed to park their breaking down infrastructure somewhere safe so that we could fix it. We couldn't find anyone that could do it very well, so we did it ourselves and built them one. That gave us on-the-job training, and then honestly, it wasn't as hard as we'd expected because it was in our DNA, and we basically productized that, and now we not only sell it direct to consumers, but we also sell it to the rest of the MSPs in the community, because they're facing the same challenge.
So from a cloud perspective then, you know, what OSs do you support? Because you started from a Citrix perspective from the virtualization. So which cloud OSs do you support with your customers?
Well, we can do any of them. We're VMware Enterprise, Citrix Enterprise as well, Gold and Platinum the last 2 years. We can pretty much take any infrastructure. There's a framework to talk about it eloquently. 1 through 7, and 1 is like the application they're using. They'd be like Microsoft Word. 2 would be the OS, to your point, right? Well, we deal in levels 3 through 6, and that's all the way down just above the router and the hardware, the guts of the internet. Those are the Cisco guys. We don't mess with that.
So we're here talking about the Internet of Things. How does that apply then to the cloud structure you've built and to your company?
Well, you know, as you've heard from a number of speakers, and I think Kurt even mentioned this earlier today, there's so much data being generated, whether it's user-generated or content-generated, to support business models and just to support users and stickiness. All of that data has to be captured and housed in order to provide a great experience for the user, right? At the same time, and I think it was last year, I think 2014 was the first year where the amount of data created was equivalent to the amount of data created for the entire history of the internet. So we had an inflection point, right? Well, guess what? That's not slowing down. So what we are going to see is an explosion of the data that's not only created and captured, but also we're going to see an explosion of requirements to mash that data together in order to give improved services. So specifically to healthcare, because that was one of the topics we were going to talk about, I use any of the Nike or Jawbone, or this is the Intel Basis watch. They capture a lot of things about me. That's only one perspective because they're device-driven. They're limited by what this hardware can produce. But what we're going to see next is someone who is wearing one device who also has their phone capture additional information, and then they can hand enter other content, what they've been eating, what time their bedtime was, et cetera, et cetera. The mashing together of all that data, auto-generated or generated by the user, creates intelligence around their entire health. And that's where we're going to see improved health outcomes from people, because doctors are finally going to have multidimensionality, a number of perspectives on their health, as well as longitudinalness or time. You know, you go to the doctor's office right now and he says, how do you feel today? Well, if you're feeling great, great. But what about, you know, for 6 weeks you had some sort of pain and you've forgotten about it now because you're also late to get to work.
Right.
Well, you know, through the Internet of Things, we're going to have more data, again, across times, and it'll be mashed together and provided to doctors so that they can assess in real time what's going on with you and be more proactive. You know, pretty soon gone will be the days where you need the annual checkup, because there are going to be charts generated and presented to doctors based on trends and how you are against the average and how you are against the elite, where they can monitor your health, and after that, Machines will do it.
So when do we get the point when they're going to tell me I'm having a heart attack tomorrow around 3 p.m.?
That's very Minority Report. We all love that movie. I don't know that the predictiveness is quite there yet, but to that point, a doctor would be able to see maybe your exercise has been going down, maybe stress has been going up, maybe what you're eating in the way of healthiness and fatty foods is going up. There are predictive tendencies in a lot of that data. And now that we're capturing it through this Internet of Things, that information will be presented to your doctor in real time, where he can make a reach out to you and say, hey, by the way, I'm noticing this trend. You may want to change a couple of these behaviors.
So bringing it back then into VirtualQube, how do you fit into all of that?
So VirtualQube provides cloud services for any small and medium-sized companies. So Seattle, is home of the cloud. It's also home to some of the most innovative companies in the way of startups. A number of them are in the health space, right? So a number of companies that are using us for their infrastructure as they grow, and to what you've heard based on previous conversations, the infrastructure in a cloud from a cloud model can grow with the company, as opposed to having these large, $50 million IT enterprise budgets every 5 years to just rip and replace all the hardware. They can just grow in lockstep with you as your customers and your users grow. So VirtualQube provides that platform from cloud services, provides a platform to companies of all sizes, and allows them to park their data, and also allows them to mash together other data that they buy, say from Facebook or from other large integrators, mash it together so that they can have services for their end users.
So it's almost really the convergence of the storage of and big data and doing the analysis, providing all that platform for all of that.
Very much so. And I have to pay, say I'm a healthcare company or just a small, medium-sized company, I have to pay for the infrastructure that I'm using, but there's going to be infrastructure that supports the thing I'm buying as well. And that infrastructure has to grow to accept all of that data that I'm buying, say from Facebook. So there's just a lot of flexibility, and cloud gives you that flexibility when it comes to cost as well.
Right. So is it logical then for your target market then to really get out of the collection of all that information, bring that over to you that has probably more expertise around that?
Yeah, what cloud also does is allows people to specialize. A lot of the IT people that we know, they've had many, many hats, M-A-N-Y, not M-I, not small. But they've had many, many hats. And if you ask them, they've got 15 things they should be keeping up on every year. In reality, they keep track of 5, if they're really good. So what we allow them to do is be specialists at those 5, and we pick up those other 10 because we have the scale to bring that expertise for those other 10 topics.
All right, so
yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
No, absolutely. So Internet of Things is really going to accelerate a lot of this. So what needs to change in the industry for that to occur?
Well, specific to healthcare, I'm going to be a little bit controversial here, but I firmly believe that we are going to have different definitions of privacy. And I think that's going to be the accelerant for this. Here's why I say that. Right now, if I'm giving my doctor all of my information, well, right now I have all my information on my laptop, but sooner or later it will be in front of my doctor as well for him to provide better health recommendations based on real-time data that I produce or is captured by a device. After that, in order for all of us to get healthier, I'm going to have to theoretically anonymize my data and push it out into the ether, and a million other people are, so they can see, a white male from Texas in his late 30s, although he looks younger, what should he be doing and how does he compare against the aggregate, right? So that will be a health service that comes out immediately. We have so many privacy concerns right now, it's limiting that capability. But we think about the generations behind us who haven't grown up with privacy in the same way, and when you really look at it, we're willing to give away our privacy for a 10% off coupon, you give away your email and name and address all the time. So I think we're going to rethink privacy. I think it'll allow for the aggregation of a lot of data, and then we've got consistent metrics from a large sample size that we can use for averages, and that way we can have outcomes based on me versus the average or me versus the elites.
Okay. So who are the companies you believe are doing it right?
This is a challenge. Many of the companies that I've worked with are device companies or fashion companies, and they don't always have the DNA to think about what are the bits of data that you're gathering and how do you mash them together and how do you provide a full on healthcare service. So for instance, I'll tell you a couple, Nike with the Fuel Band, beautiful product. They solved the fashion issue because Fitbit hadn't solved it. Fitbit, you look like you're wearing a weight loss device, and not many people want to look like they're wearing a weight loss device, right? But the Nike Fuel Band was cool. The Nike Fuel Band, though, abstracted data. It didn't provide heart rate. It didn't provide, it couldn't get wet. Right. It didn't fit seamlessly into your life. The one I just started wearing was the Intel Basis Peak Watch, which just came out about a month ago. It's got some limitations, but it improves, it gets the heart rate capture, has a longer battery. You know, the Apple one coming out doesn't even last a day. So all these challenges, right? But it's going to be the team, the company, and I think these guys might have it. It's going to be the company that gives you something elegant that fits into your life, that's low touch, that also gives you salient data upon which you can react, and then also can build out the features in another screen setting.
Right, and I think you're kind of alluding to some of those future products and what we're seeing. Anything else we should experience or look towards coming out around those?
Well, what's going to be challenging also within this industry, and I think you're seeing it with some of the product announcements here today. I mean, we're seeing mashing together of services like speakers and light bulbs, which are okay, and speakers, you know, and the light bulb seems to be the platform right now. I don't know what's going on, but we're going to face a challenge because with this Internet of Things and data creation and syncing together and mashing together, we're going to face a lot of correlation, and that's not causation. So correlation is when two things move together. Causation is saying if this one moves, this one has to move as well. We have a lot of things that move in tandem, and we're probably going to go through a lot of correlation exercises and think it's causation, and it probably won't be. So we're probably going to go through a learning curve for probably a year or two, and then kind of peel back the onion a little bit and say, all right, these two, this is why they're moving together. There's causation here. This is where value is, and this is what I want to focus on.
So you talked a little bit about privacy. I'd love to hear your thoughts a little bit around security. And please allude on privacy a little more if you have, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on security because that's what's scaring people.
Yeah, and you know, Sony hack's been in the news, and you know, JP Morgan with yet another breach, you know, Target last year. You know, when you look at those, and the Sony one, the dust is still settling on, but when you look at the JP Morgan one and the Target one, these were malicious. They were done by an individual who gained access through stealing of credentials. You know, no one likes security. I work with a law firm, one of our clients, and they want to have a universal password across every login and user. We're just like, guys, do you realize the threat that puts you under? And we gave them a 17-page disclaimer saying, because you're doing this, we can't guarantee, we can't guarantee, we can't guarantee. And they signed it, and a month later, one of those stories hit, and they came back. It was like, okay, we finally get your point. But security, you know, to that point, security, there are great protocols in place. There's always going to be malicious people out there. You can't protect against all of it, but you can do really darn well to protect against all but the best. And that's what you kind of want to do. I think we heard earlier, you know, are you chasing 3 nines of uptime or 5 nines of uptime? Well, you add a 9, you add a 0 to the cost. It's kind of the same thing on security, you know? Like,
no, great point.
You've got the things that you can secure and what you can lock down. Someone may get around it, and you're just going to have to live with that. You know, have those protocols in place where if something changes, we get it. They're always going to be ahead of us. Let's be fair. It's our rapid response that really changes the tenor of the game.
So, Karl, thank you very much. Any last thoughts for our audience?
Go Ducks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.